Hi, this is Whiskey Trail Podcast. We just recently started sharing the first 20 minutes of the interviews that we make with people from the industry. The rest of the video is available in our Patreon called Whiskey Trail Hungary. If you like the concept, if you like what we do, please give us a like or subscribe. You can find the link in the description below.
All right. So, hi, Cody. Thank you very much for joining us. It's just short interview about Angus Dundee and yourself, if you don't mind. We met in the Hungarian Whiskey Show, which was amazing. I mean, your stand was amazing. We're going to talk about the Whiskey Show in another episode or another lifetime, if we can. So please, first tell us about yourself and your line of work. How did you get into the business? Just start here and we will go through the both distilleries.
Yeah, of course. So hello to everyone listening. My name is Cody. I'm a global ambassador for Angus Dundee Distillers. I got into whiskey really through my granddad. My grandfather was a big whiskey guy. When I used to come in from playing football when I was younger, I'd ask for an orange juice and be handed a whiskey instead a lot of the times when I was around. Basically every weekend he would hand me a different whiskey, and that's kind of how I was brought up. When I was at university, I studied geography in Edinburgh, which is the capital in Scotland. Sadly, during that time, my granddad developed dementia, and he wouldn't quite remember my name or my mum's name, and I'd sit in front of him and he wouldn't know who I was. But if I handed him a whiskey, the man would instantly remember who I was. He'd see me as the kid he used to hand whiskies to when I went round to see him on weekends. And I really fell in love with the drink at that point. Now, I loved whiskey beforehand, but that's when I properly fell in love with it. So I did my dissertation at university on whiskey. It was on the relationship between Scotland and whiskey. So how Scotland as a country has benefited from whiskey as a drink sort of financially, and then also how whiskey has benefited from Scotland as an ambassador. So basically how you can go to somewhere like Hungary, and if someone says, 3 words on Scotland, go. Often people will say whiskey, kilts, haggis, or Loch Ness Monster, or whatever it may be. That product is now tied to the country. Basically how that happened and where we go from there. So I did my dissertation on whiskey. I left university and I went to a place in Edinburgh called the Scotch Whisky Experience. It is basically a whiskey visitor attraction next to Edinburgh Castle in the capital. They do tours, they have a shop, they have a bar. So you get to work in lots of aspects of whiskey, from retail to on-trade to tourism. So I worked there for 4 years. I did pretty much everything you could do there, from the standard tours with people that know nothing about whiskey, all the way up to the private tours with your sort of very engaged whiskey groups, your sort of private client kind of stuff, working in the retail side and the bar side as well. And from there, I was there all the way up till about COVID. COVID hit, we all went on furlough, we couldn't leave our flat. I was stuck in the flat for about a year or so with my girlfriend, now wife.
Exactly the same story, yeah.
Yeah, so stuck there, and it was looking for what to do next. The opportunity came up to work for Angus Dundee Distillers. Now, Angus Dundee is an independently owned company, one of the few independent companies left in the industry. The vast majority of single malt distilleries today are owned by big multinational companies that will own many different single malt distilleries, not just in Scotland, but they'll own other ventures across the world in other drinks categories. The opportunity to work for an independent company does not come up very often. And again, I got into whiskey through family. So I jumped at the opportunity to work for Angus Dundee, and I was lucky enough that they brought me on board. So I started off just helping with the ambassadorial side around the UK and small parts of Europe, and that's now moved to do more of Europe as well as international stuff as well, across the pond and North American markets, etc. So been with Angus Dundee now for about 4 years or so, and I absolutely love it. I love the brands, I love working for an independent company, and I love talking to people about whiskey. So it's a great job that lets me talk to many different people. It lets me see lots of amazing places, and the first whiskey trip, the first business trip I ever did with the company was to Budapest. That was the first one I ever did. I'll tell you, the first time I did that Budapest trip back in it must have been 2021, I had no idea what I was doing. I was thrown right in the deep end. I'd only joined I think I'd only been with the company for a couple of weeks. I barely knew how a business card worked to expense anything. I didn't know what I was doing. but we just didn't have enough bodies on board.
Hi! Sorry for interrupting, just give us a moment. If you want to know more from Cody and you like this video, please don't forget, you can watch the whole 1.5 hour interview with him on our Patreon at Whiskey Trail Hungary. Link is down in the description below.
Maybe we can talk about it a bit later, but our master blender at Angus Dundee is one of the few master blenders that came from my role. Ian was a brand ambassador. He was the one who would normally go and do the whiskey shows like Budapest or wherever else in Europe.
I think I've met him.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. So yeah, he would have been one of the ones that would have been in Budapest. So if you've done the show many times, you've probably talked to Ian at some point. But he moved on to be Master Blender, and that left this big gap where we didn't have someone able to fill in at these shows. So as soon as I joined, I was kind of thrown straight into the deep end, and out I went. And I'll tell you, Budapest, that first trip, I hadn't really looked into the city at all, and it blew me away. It's such a beautiful, beautiful city, Budapest. I've absolutely loved it. And again, I'd never done any of these international shows before that first year. So talking to people about whiskey abroad was just, it was magic to see how much people actually loved Scotch whiskey.
Right.
You know, again, I worked at a visitor attraction in Scotland, and you had lots of people come and talk to you about how much they loved Scotch. But the people that are flying over to Edinburgh and are at a Scotch whiskey attraction, you expect a lot of them to know a little bit about whiskey, or they're brand new to it, they want to tick a box. It was a very different experience being somewhere else and still seeing that love for the drink. So yeah, that was the first trip I did, and now I've done many more since then. And again, I love the brands, and I love working for the company.
We worked from each other a few hundred meters because I worked in the Whiskey Trail. And
oh, did you? I didn't know that.
That's why our company's name is Whiskey Trail. I missed it so much. I named it after the Whiskey Trail. So I started in the gin company in 2018 or 2019. No, I think it's 2018. We moved to Scotland with my that time my girlfriend, now my wife. And I started working in the gin company down in Northbridge, right?
Yeah.
It's the same company, like all the Whiskey Trails and the whiskey and wines are the same company. And I just realized I like whiskey more. And so it's a very fast track to get me into whiskey. I've worked a lot though, but I learned a lot as well. And after COVID, we moved back here. So I started working for many companies, actually for Whiskey Net as well, who's the owner of Angus Dundee's.
They're our importer.
Yes,
yeah.
He's the distributor of Angus Dundee. And I was actually briefly, but like I worked for them for 2 years, 3 years maybe, working in retail as well and educating the bar staff, the Good Spirit bar. I think that's where I met with Ian, actually. I still have his card somewhere because at that time, my favorite whiskey, well, from Angus Dundee for sure, but my favorite was the cigar malt.
Yeah.
And he was telling me how the cigar malt is actually made, and it was amazing to know what's in it, all the old stuff in it, all the sherry casks and everything. And so, and after that, we just started our own company, and this is where we are now. But I started myself in the same street where you started the business. Almost the same time, actually. Yeah. So, it's a small world, isn't it?
That is one thing with whiskey. I was doing a different podcast here in Edinburgh last night. Maybe I'd one too many whiskeys last night, but it was a great podcast, really enjoyed it. And one of the main things, the talking points that we had was whiskey's such a people business.
Yeah.
It's as much about the people that you meet and the interactions you have and the connections that you have that helps to grow a business, but also is the reason that I enjoy it so much. The people you meet, it's a big world, but as you just said, it's also quite small. You end up running into the same faces over and over again when you're really in the whiskey world. And again, that is one of the reasons I love it so much, because the people in this industry tend to be really nice people. And they're the people that you'd want to have a drink with anyway. Forget it's a spirits industry. You'd happily meet people in this industry and just want to go and have a drink with them. And I think that's what makes me love it so much as well.
I heard this expression before, but I just had a couple of weeks ago, we had an interview with Kenny from Drummore, and he said it, and I heard it many times, and I actually used it many times as well. Like, it's a friendly industry. Yeah. Like, there is no really, it's not a cutthroat business, like everybody says, and then it's a competitor. No, nobody cares. It's if you do the same what I do, and obviously I'm in sales, like I've got many competitors, right? But in the end of the day, we still, like, if we meet somewhere, and even if we are obviously on the side because we're not producers, but who's dealing with mainly with whiskey, and you just meet with them, you're like, oh yeah, we don't care. You got these brands, I got these brands, but we still trading with each other. We still meeting shows and we are friends. Like it doesn't matter. And inside the industry, like the producers and the distilleries and all the distillers, it's just amazing. Like, for example, like Ard American from Kilcommon, they're coming up and help them to build a distillery because it's just, it's so good to have you. Let's go. Let's do it. So
it's a very dangerous road to go down if you burn bridges in this industry. Exactly. If you're someone who is not very good at keeping people happy, whiskey is still an industry, much like you just said, where you do interact a lot with other people. Trading is very much an integral part to many businesses in the whiskey world. And if you own Ard American and I own Glencadam, and for whatever reason I'm wanting to do a blending project and I need some Ard American, if you hate me, you ain't selling to me. So it's really important to be friendly with these other companies, because if it could, you never know where it's going to go. And sometimes you will need stuff from other people. And if you've burnt bridges, that makes it so much more difficult. They might still sell to you, but I'll tell you right now, the price is going to go up. That's how it is, Yeah, fine. I'll do business with you. But if I don't like you, I'm telling you, I'm not giving you the best price on my cast. I'll tell you that right now. So it always is best to be friendly, but it's very easy to do that because the people are so nice.
Thankfully, yeah. I can't think of who I ever met from the industry and I was like, yeah, I hate you. Like, I think it never happened. Like, yeah, there are people who's harder to work with. That's true. Yeah. But it's up to you. Like, if you can handle it, there's no problem. So you're juggling 2 distilleries in the same time, right?
Yep.
Plus some rums. I don't think you have any rum distilleries, but you've got a rum line. Like Larimar and Krausness is yours. And
yeah.
Did you have anything else? No, these 2, right?
Those are the main ones, yeah. Those are the ones we would talk about. Yeah.
So, but stick with whiskey right now because our audience, like, I tried to talk to them about rum, but they were like, yeah, it's fun, it's interesting, but can you just keep it like with whiskey? Yeah, okay. So you're juggling 2 distilleries in the same time, which is not easy. And 2 distilleries, which is not very different on the sense of like both mainly on the same side, on the sweet side, but very different character.
Yeah.
My experience with the two distilleries is Tomintoul is mainly for beginners and the people who just like sweet stuff and, just go easy, and obviously not the peated side, but you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. So the standard bourbon cask stuff. And Glencadam is mainly for those who really understand how the malt should taste like, because it's very straightforward, it's very malty, it's got a bigger kick, and it's really the Highland Speyside taste notes coming out really strongly in these 2 brands. Yep. So please tell me, what's the main differences, what you struggling when you're selling these 2 under the same flag? How is it going? What's the people and what's the word idea about these 2 whiskies?
Yeah, for anyone unaware, we have 2 distilleries. Technically, we have 3 now. We filled our first cask at our Chinese distillery, Chunbank, last week. Right. So we do have a distillery in China now, but that is another side of the world. I'm dealing with Tomintoul and Glencadam, so we're sticking to that on the call. So, we have these 2 different distilleries. Glencadam is the older of the 2. Glencadam turned 200 years old this year. Tomintoul turned 60 years old this year, so they both had a big anniversary this year. As you said, Glencadam in general, on the stand, tends to be for what we would class as the informed consumer. It is, especially with our bourbon cask stock, quite spirit forward. Our spirit at Glencadam is very tropical. It's sort of like freshly squeezed pineapple juice, we often say, with the new make spirit. You can make a great pina colada out of the new make. It'll be a very strong pina colada, about 70% alcohol, but you can do it. So It's a very sort of bright, fresh fruit. You get a lot of bananas and citrus and vanilla, very crisp style of whiskey. Whereas Tomintoul is generally softer, as you said. Tomintouls are Speyside. It's in the Glenlivet Valley. Has much larger stills. Tomintoul stills are very, very tall, some of the tallest in Scotland. And it produces a very soft style of Scotch. So in general, again, with our classic bourbon stock, the Tomintoul spirit is very approachable. It's known as the gentle dram. It is a whiskey for someone who wants an easy drinking whiskey. That's what it tends to go down for Tomintoul. Now, as you said, we have two different sort of styles there. For the engaged consumer and for the consumer that's wanting something softer. Now, really, if we're talking about festivals, it is all down to who is in the room as to which one of those two brands tends to do a little bit better. So I was doing a festival. The last festival I did one down in England. Tomintoul did vastly better than Glencadam at that particular festival. People were coming up, they were asking for something nice and easy drinking for Christmas. They just want something nice and soft. Tomintoul's the one for that. You go to a different festival and it's consumers that are looking for something a little bit stronger in strength. They're wanting something that's going to be non-chill filtered natural colour. Glencadam's going to do a little bit better for that. There's two different styles of consumer. And really, as I said, it really depends who is in the room at any particular time. I think if you're an engaged consumer, I would obviously class myself as an engaged consumer. I'm sure you class yourself as the same. I'm sure anyone who's listening to any kind of whiskey podcast would tend to class themselves as that kind of consumer. Often in our world, we will forget that there is that other consumer that wants something nice and soft and approachable. Yes. Blends make up just under 90% of all sales of Scotch whisky. The whiskey drinker, if you just take whiskey in general, is a blends drinker. It's a soft, easy drink. That is a whiskey drinker. Right. But when you're an engaged consumer, you're in your little bubble where everyone else that you talk to and everything you read is this one thing, and you forget there's this other bubble as well. So we have two brands that are able to cater to quite a large audience, which is fantastic. It's exactly what you want to see. We can give the people that want something a little bit stronger in strength, that is non-chill filtered and natural colour, and is spirit forward, so they can seek that spirit and that sort of grain, as you said, out. That's where Glencadam absolutely shines. It's an older distillery, only distillery that's still got the water wheel on the inside, produces a very tropical spirit, as I said, and it's fully manual. Tomintoul as well is also fully manual. So a very manual distillery. Tomintoul, softer, so we can again engage those consumers that want something easy drinking, but can also do heavily peated. You mentioned it in the cigar malt, so it can also do things like the Ballantruan range, which is 50% ABV. It is unchill filtered, and it's 55 ppm of the barley, so it's incredibly highly peated, using Speyside peat as well. So we can go from Speyside peat from Aberdeenshire. Okay. Yeah, so we're using local Speyside peat. It's peated to 55 ppm. That's the equivalent to like a Lafroig on Islay. It's higher than a Bowmore, and it's higher than some Lagavulins, etc. I would say it drinks softer, because it is the Speyside peat, and it's still going through those big tall stills that we have. We don't change anything in production when we move to the peated spirit. We don't change cut points or anything. It's literally just, is it peated barley or is it not? But that really shows you the differences between our unpeated spirit and the peated spirit, because it is just that barley that's changing. Yes, the ABV goes up, but it is just the barley.
After you do the Ballantruan run, that's just a couple of months or in a year, right? When you do peated, and after that you have to clean it for weeks.
Yeah. So what we do is we only do our peated spirit for 3 weeks in the summer and 3 weeks in the winter, and that's the maximum amount of output we can do without cutting in too much into the unpeated spirit. Historically, it was only 1 week a year. Started back in 2001. It sort of slowly creeped up, went to 3 weeks, went to 5 when I first started. Now it's at 6, but 6 is the maximum we can do, but just because we can't cut into that unpeated run anymore. The way it works is 3 weeks before we'd have our annual closure in the summer and winter anyway. That's when most of our stillmen would take their holidays. It's when we'd fix anything that needs fixed. It's when the things get cleaned anywho. You basically go from unpeated to the heavily peated. You clean everything in those 3 weeks. We would have done that anyway, but it flushes out all those phenols that you're talking about. Then we can just go straight back into unpeated. So we basically do it right before we have those natural closures in the summer and winter months anyway. And that allows us to not have to stop production to clean, much like you just stated. Because we would be stopping anyway, those closures would be happening anyway. So it just change the barley 3 weeks before that closure, do your annual cleaning, straight back to unpeated again. And it's 3 weeks and 3 weeks.
That's brilliant. I adore Angus Dundee because don't tell anybody.
Thanks for watching the video with Cody. I hope you enjoyed the interview. Please like and subscribe so you won't miss out on the next video, what I will upload in the future. Also, if you want to see the whole interview, please subscribe to our Patreon. It's called Whiskey Trail Hungary. Thank you for watching. See you next time.